Good morning, people, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 8th of June. I'm Derek Clark, back my holidays, and I'm joined by Joshua Barrie. Joshua, how was your holiday? You were over in Croatia, weren't you?
Yeah, it was very good, mate. Got back on Sunday, but obviously we've not had the pleasure of a morning podcast together since. So, nice break, 35 degrees at the end of the week. And, you know, having been abroad with me a couple of times, you know how... what would you say? I don't get that homesick when I'm away, do I? I just want to move to all these nice foreign lands.
Yeah, I can imagine you having a tantrum as you were boarding your plane back to Glasgow.
Indeed.
But hey ho! Hope everyone had a good Jubilee weekend as well. It was lovely down here in Warrington. Good couple of days off, but back in amongst it and talking all things Rangers. There's a lot to talk about, and we'll touch on that very shortly indeed, folks. Before we do so, just a bit of housekeeping. As you can see in the ticker below, our offer has now changed. We're now offering a free 30-day trial for the Rangers Review website. It's £2.99 per month thereafter, which is still an absolute bargain. But if you sign up now, you get a free month, absolutely free of charge. So head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And as you can also see, and you'll know by now for those that regularly tune in, our sponsor is the One Football app. It is your one-stop shop for all your footballing needs. There's absolutely everything packed on there. The good news is it's totally free, so you don't need to pay a dime for it, and it's available for iPhone and Android users. You can keep up to date with the latest news from Ibrox. Lots of Rangers Review content on there. I know that Joshua found out about the Goldson news when he was away on holiday via it, so you get notifications to your phone. Not only can you keep up to date with Rangers news, but you can also keep abreast of all that's going on in Scottish football and across the border, as well as over the pond in Europe and further afield. So it's a One Football app, folk. Would very much recommend you get it downloaded and keep up to date with all the latest news in the football world. Okay, let's kick off. As you can see in the title, folks, we've got on the Allan McGregor latest. This news breaking, well, when was it? What day is it? Monday night via other publications. But Joshua, it's your understanding that no sort of contract discussions have been taking place. Can you tell us what you know and then update everyone that's tuning in?
Yeah, well, I think it was Monday night, Tuesday morning that stuff started to circulate. They eventually said that Allan McGregor had started contract discussions. It's probably important to say that from our side of view, what we understand it isn't that it definitely won't happen. This isn't us saying that Allan McGregor will retire. But what we understand is that the contract discussions haven't taken place yet. I think McGregor's still on holiday, naturally, probably quite keen. It's only, 2 weeks since the season ended, Derek?
Yeah.
Pre-season doesn't start until the very end of June, I think June 27th. So I think McGregor will be naturally keen to take a little bit of time to think about it. He spoke after the Cup final to Rangers TV, and he said that he hadn't thought about it. And I'm sure it had crossed his mind by that point, but it certainly seemed, if you take him at his word, that he'd been focusing on the football and he was going to think about it in the off-season. So, yeah, we understand that both parties are open to discussions. It's not a situation where McGregor's going to go off and sign for another club. Do you know what I mean? It's one of these situations where the club and player obviously have a real mutual respect for one another, as you'd expect. And we'll talk when the time is right, and both parties, I think, are open to an extension, although that's, as I say, that's not guaranteeing it will happen. Our report was simply stating that the discussions haven't taken place at this current moment in time. We also understand that there was a lot of discussion about a coaching role, Derek, about would McGregor be a player coach. And again, I don't think that's entirely off the table, but I don't think that's been actively pursued from our understanding by McGregor at the moment. So a bit of clear up on that. Not to say that he definitely won't be staying around, but at the moment, there's been no kind of new developments on that.
Yeah, sorry, folks. I had to put in my charger from my laptop there, or else it would be a very short show. So Joshua, let's play devil's advocate. Would you want McGregor staying on for another season in a playing capacity? I'm thinking Robbie McCrory is there, of course. John McLaughlin is there. For me, those two, I'm more than happy with them stepping up. If another goalkeeper is brought in, then fair enough. But for me, those would be my 1 and 2 for next season. But would you be opposed to McGregor sticking around?
I've just put the article in the comments there, Derek. I'll remember just to say that I don't think it really makes much sense for two reasons. Firstly, if he's not actively pursuing a coaching role at the moment, I tweeted this out yesterday. You see clubs down south, and they'll have a kind of older statesman as their third choice keeper. So Lee Grant, who just left Man United, Scott Carson at Man City. I think it's Andy Longerman, who was at Liverpool when they won the Champions League. That's to do with the homegrown rule in England as well, but they don't necessarily play, but they're around the kind of what Andy Firth was a couple of years at Ibrox. And ahead of them in the number 2 capacity, you have Kelleher at Liverpool, who's a young goalkeeper, Zach Steffen, who's still relatively young in goalkeeping terms, and Dean Henderson, who's in the same bracket. So you look at the model of what top clubs are doing, and I don't think it makes sense to demote a 40-year-old to your number 2 goalkeeper, because you're blocking a natural pathway. The player's not going to have added value in the next couple of years. Do you know what I mean? I don't see the argument aside from sentimentality. If you think if the argument is McGregor's still good enough for a season, then he would have to be number 1. I think that's probably a more realistic kind of version of events. John McLaughlin as well wants to be number 1. He's been here for 2 years. I think it was actually before the Europa League final. He was speaking to on the Four Lads Had a Dream excellent blog, which obviously is a contributor to the site, and was speaking about his desire to kind of nail down that position next year. So an extension isn't off the table. It could go one of any number of ways. Obviously, Rangers will be very, very they want to look after Allan McGregor, but naturally, in terms of the way that they handle whatever news comes out, because he's been one of the club's great modern servants. Speaking kind of not without any inside information on this point, just speaking kind of subjectively about it, I don't think that putting a 40-year-old as a number 2 makes much sense when you're blocking a pathway. Now, Robbie McCrory, we don't really know if he's good enough. We don't know what the plan is there. Even so, I think you always want to probably have a succession plan. And if John McLaughlin was to be number 1 next season, I'd like to see either Robbie McCrory or another young goalkeeper who could step up in the future, come in to take that position.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's good to have the boss man watching as well this morning, Joshua. Johnny's tuning in. So it's good to see you. Better be on your best behaviour. So many comments coming in, folks. We'll try and get to a few of them. A lot with regards to James Sands. Now, this was a story that broke yesterday. A report in the US. MLS expert Tom Bogert says that Rangers would need to fork out $6 million if they were to take James Sands on a permanent deal next summer. Of course, they have that right to buy in summer 2023. He says, I would assume Rangers will trigger that. Think he'll be really good this year. Now, James Sands, for me, of course, he came in January time, Joshua. He's filled in on a number of occasions, done reasonably well, you'd have to say. However, £4.5 million for James Sands, for me, to quote Duncan Bannatyne, I'm out. What say you?
Yeah, well, obviously we don't know if that number is true, so we should just preface it with the fact that
yes,
that might be an over-exaggeration. But the fact it's come from kind of American side of things is, I guess, a different market altogether. James Sands is a really interesting one because he's a young player that's come from the MLS and is an international for America. I think he's still 21. And he was the first homegrown player to win the MLS Cup with New York FC. That's quite a marketable player to sell. We all over here, obviously, we maybe don't quite understand the workings of the MLS, and I don't have loads of it, but from what I do know, that you've got some value on that player. You can see how he fits into Van Bronckhorst's kind of style of football because he's a midfielder who plays in the back three, quite safe in possession but reliable. I thought he had a great game against Dundee. I think it was in the Cup where he kind of showed. He played a little bit of a Ryan Jack role for me in terms of the way he covered James Tavernier and moved the team forward. We were speaking about it yesterday, me and Johnny, about how not all midfielders are going to be line breakers. Some, like you look at Jorginho's the example I always go to, and Billy Gilmore's maybe sometimes similar in this mould, the way that often a backwards pass, a sideways pass is what you need to open up the opposition and play through them. And I think Sands is kind of in that mould. But to spend money on him, he has to be an important player. He has to improve the starting 11. And where does he do that at the moment? He's played at centre-back a couple of times. I don't think it's without the realms of possibility that he went back to play there. I think he actually did well there in the last day of the season. He did get bodied by Ellis Sims for the goal, but aside from that, up at Tynecastle in the 3-1 win, I thought he actually performed pretty well, read the game well, stepped out of defence with the ball. But now Goldson's there, Suter's there. Is he going to play in one of the back two? Obviously, you've got Calvin Bassey, probably not. So then you look a line-up in midfield. Jack and Lundstram, you're going to do well to break in front of them. And then if he does, Rangers probably need a bit of a progressive passer in that position. And James Sands, as of yet, is not someone that's really going to break the lines, find someone in pockets of space. You've also got Stephen Davis and Glenn Kamara in there. So it's a bit of a difficult one because to spend money on him, I think you need to, well, firstly, you need to kind of protect his value by playing him. You don't want to buy a player and then he not have a role in your team and you're selling him at a loss, which is kind of what happened with Cedric Etinnaldo on a smaller scale. But also, again, where does he fit into that team? So I'd be interested to know what the plan was when he came in. My kind of theory is that, John Lundstram wasn't in the picture when James Sands came into the club. You'll remember, Derek, that Aberdeen game 1-1 back in January. I think it was the first game back after the winter break. John Lundstram was on the bench and James Sands started in midfield for his first start. He did okay, but I think that shows at the time that Lundstram didn't really seem to be in the picture. And Lundstram only came in almost out of necessity against Hearts. And then, as we all know, the rest is history. And there's absolutely no doubt about his worth and his quality and the importance to that side now. So who knows? I guess the fact that it is a loan deal means that presumably Rangers don't have to trigger it. And maybe that protects them a little bit in this situation.
Yeah, and it's a good point here by the gallant pioneer. He says, let's see how Sands does next season before we all pass judgment. It's a fair comment, of course. He may have a bigger role to play, Joshua, next season. Yeah. I mean, I think with regards to that loan deal, unlike the Ahmad and Ramsey deals, this is, of course, a much lengthier loan deal. It's almost strange in the whole in the loan market to have a player for this length of time, but it gives Van Bronckhorst the opportunity to try and mould him, try and get him suited to Scottish football and get him used to the way that he likes to play. Whereas with the other two players I mentioned, you're almost playing catch up and you don't have that long to get them integrated into your side. So with a pre-season behind them, it may prove really beneficial for him.
And I don't think it's improbable that Rangers actually do play a back three with greater regularity next season. Obviously, we've seen Craig Vickers has got an excellent piece up on the website today about time on, who I see there's a comment in there about that, so we can maybe touch on him in a second, Derek. But Van Bronckhorst has kind of built his Rangers' success so far in terms of getting to the final of the Europa League, predominantly on flexibility, on being able to change to the opposition, adapt his plan, do different things with players. But I think Sands definitely probably is at his best in that deep midfield role when he can drop into the back three. And sometimes it's not the most sexy of roles that he fulfills, but I guess it's quite effective, certainly. And I think Sands is the type of player, if he maybe played in a team at this stage in his career, maybe a little bit less, not even possession dominant, but breaking down a team is different to even, I think, playing with New York City and winning the MLS Cup. And he said that soon after his debut. I remember asking him about that in a press conference, and he spoke about the differences of the Scottish Premiership. So as you say, I think it's sufficient to give the player a little bit of time to adapt, and we'll see. You might be having an entirely different conversation this time next year, because if the John Lundstram saga has taught anyone anything, it's that you can't really write a player off when they've not had that much of a consistent run in the team.
Yeah, so many comments come in, a few questions. We'll touch on time in a little minute, but great news for Andrew Barclay, Joshua. He's just tested negative after 7 days of COVID. Absolutely battered me. Congratulations, Andrew. That you'll be delighted to get out of the house and get integrated into normal day life again. I had COVID in January time, and you've had it as well, Joshua, hasn't it? It's not pleasant, is it? So it's still doing the round. So that's good that you're on the mend, Andrew. Questions coming in. I want to touch on this one, then we'll touch on timing. Rob Cole says, Derek, given your knowledge of the AFL, having been linked with Ross Stewart, could you see him fitting into Gio's style? This is an interesting one. This is weird. Bear with me. I watched them last season against Bolton when they get absolutely pumped 6-0. But for me, he was the best player on the park for Sunderland. and he gave Ricardo Santos, the Bolton captain, who is a man mountain. Not many players give him a decent game, and he gave him it was a good physical battle between the two. He can finish. He's got good feet for a big man, as old saying goes. I think it would be a decent acquisition if Rangers were to bring him in. Of course, he's a Scotland international as well, called up for the international team. Joshua, for me, this is the sort of market Rangers should be shopping in. I would have no qualms if he was to pitch up at Ibrox.
Yeah, but I think, and this goes back to the Casiera chat that myself and Johnny had either yesterday or Monday, I can't quite remember. When you look at the profile of striker that Rangers have, Stuart, I don't think he's the same type of player necessarily as Morelos, but what he probably gives you is that Van Bronckhorst mould of maybe being able to isolate his marker in the way that he can carry the ball to goal in the way that Morelos can, in the way that probably a Roof can't. And I think if you look at the style of striker that Van Bronckhorst almost doesn't have, maybe that. I know Roof is a penalty box poacher, but he's not round enough. I don't really think you can count on him for a full season, even though we were speaking yesterday about the managing the injury record season upon season. So I think you need another player that's just going to be a bit of a box occupier if Morelos is going to stay around for the season. Because if Morelos stays and signs a new contract or whatever, he's going to play 50 games of 60. And Van Bronckhorst, as we've seen already, isn't really one for rotation, as he likes to stick with his tried and trusted. So for me, the priority has to be someone that's going to score goals. Great discussions on Twitter yesterday, and Pena Cartel, who contributes to the Four Lads Had a Dream blog, was making the good point that Jermaine Defoe, I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but it was 13 goals in, say, just over 1,000 minutes. And what he was saying is you need a player like that that's going to be able to come on and just score goals. Rangers, again, I've got an article on the website about this today, about Rangers over and under performance. The issue wasn't getting the ball into the box for them last season. The issue wasn't chance creation. It was chance conversion. So the priority for me needs to be players that can do that from wide positions and in the central area, because Morelos, as we've discussed so many times, probably isn't going to score you 25 goals in the Premiership, and you need to put goals in and around them.
Yeah. Okay, let's touch on this question from Blue Ninja that's come in. Is there any substance in the reports about this left-back Tymon, and you think that means Barisic is on the way out? Of course, Josh Tymon of Stoke City. Got to be honest, I seen him when he made his debut for Stoke, when he came through as a young lad, and he impressed me over on that left-back slot. Again, like Ross Stewart, I'd welcome him to Ibrox. I'm trying to firm up if there's any substance to the rumours. Joshua, you've done a wee little bit of analysis on him. What's your feelings on Josh Tymon?
Well, I've just, again, posting the link in the comments there. And remember, folks, all the articles that we speak about, you can read them all for free with our free trial. The link is in the comments. If you just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe, as you see at the bottom of your screen, just ticking along there, you can read all these articles. Plenty of stuff there. McGregor's future, time on scouting, my piece on the goals that I was just speaking about. But it was actually Craig that wrote this one, so I can't take credit for it, Derek. But I've read it. Excellent piece. I think the two things that stick out about Tymon for me, one of which is his capability to come inside the pitch, which I think is increasing throughout the world with fullbacks. And you see it, Van Bronckhorst likes to play with those wide wingers, and as a result, sometimes you want fullbacks who can kind of tuck inside a bit. We've seen it with Barisic in pockets last season. We've seen it as well with Tavernier at times. The game that sticks out to me is St Mirren 2-0 at home when it was behind closed doors, actually, that game, which seems a lifetime ago. Rangers were kind of adopting a style of inverted fullbacks that facilitated their wingers staying high and wide. But the other thing he does really well, and this is a bit of a gripe I've had with Barisic for a while, is because Barisic is so left-footed, I think when he's not playing well, and we know that he's very well, he can have drops in confidence and therefore drops in form. I think he can be a little bit one-dimensional in the way that teams can press him, because he can't come inside the pitch on his right foot. And when he's not playing with confidence, he doesn't really have that ability, I think, because he is such a confidence player, to drive past the player inside the pitch and use his pace in a way that allows Rangers to move inside. Therefore, he's always limited to either go backwards or go down the line. And Tymon is comfortable going inside the pitch. And I think that's something that again, with fullbacks being the position that teams so often press because the touchline's right by them, it's a really kind of safe place to apply your pressure. You need fullbacks who are able to evade pressure pretty well, which is something James Tavernier does really well. So I like the profile of Time On, crosses the ball really well. I guess all these links have to be asterisked with, is there going to be a player sale, and is there going to be the ability to rebuild, or are you going to have to rely on Barisic, or is Barisic going to come back and have a brilliant season? Because there's no doubting his quality, but I think he's a confidence player. We absolutely know that, and when he has dips in the season, you're going to need to play someone else in that position. So again, it depends if Calvin Bassey's around, but you can see why Time On would be linked to Rangers because of his profile, and also Derek pretty comfortable playing in a back five. So all these players, I think you need to look, could he fit into the Van Bronckhorst mould? Is he kind of malleable to what the manager wants to do? And I think with Time On, the answer is yes, he is.
Yeah, of course, Barisic playing against France the other night as well for Croatia. So he's certainly still a top-class left-back, but it'll be interesting to see if there's a bit of movement in that department over the course of the summer. Blue Ninja also says, by the way, finally managed to sign up to the Rangers review. Thank you for that. He says, thanks to Lewis for sorting out the issue with my Japanese credit card. So well done, Lewis, for sorting out Blue Ninja there. Andrew, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, buddy, when your subscription is due. If you DM our Twitter account at Rangers Review 55, the boss man, Johnny should be able to tell you when that is due out. Okay, folks, I think that'll do us there for the day. Thanks for everyone for getting in touch with the programme as ever. It's very much appreciated. Remember, as Joshua said, we've got that great offer on the website just now, totally free for the first month. If you try it and you don't like it, no problem. You don't need to subscribe. It's £2.99 per month thereafter, an absolute bargain. It really is. But that'll do us there for today. We'll be back again tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.